coming along to the Brisbane Inner West Chamber of Commerce August Breakfast. But this morning we're welcoming Marie Adchin from CCIQ Technology, an IT company in Milton, and Nathan Wood from the same IT company in Milton. A little surprise in just a moment. It's a journey to the cloud, why, what, why and how.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here this morning, and we really appreciate the opportunity to lead this discussion today around cloud computing. I'm Marie Adchin, and I'll introduce you to my colleague Nathan Wood in a moment. When Lynn asked us to present this topic today, she also asked if I could give you a brief update on the activities that are happening within the CCIQ technology cluster. A number of you were at the kick-off breakfast at the start of this year when I spoke to you about this brand new cluster that I'd started up within CCIQ, specifically for the technology industry, and it's delightful to be here this morning amongst so many technology industry colleagues. At the time, I also shared some of the highlights of the experience that we've gone through with our business, TLC IT Solutions. And I'd just like to also say that we are now officially a card-carrying member of the Brisbane Inner West Chamber of Commerce. We joined just yesterday. And I'd also like to introduce a couple of our colleagues who you'll be seeing a lot more of at these events, Mark Holm and Neil Cartwright down here. So when I was last with you guys, I mentioned that we had decided to embark upon a renaming and a rebranding of our business. And you were actually amongst the first to hear about that plan, and it is befitting for two reasons that we are now able to show you guys, who are amongst the first to see the results of that, because it was amongst this group that we shared that news, and also because this very room is where we had our first planning session to actually start our rebranding in February. And it is so very, very new. In fact, I had to scurry down and have our friends here at Sinorama yesterday quickly whip up this banner. So that's how fresh this is. So 6 months later, here we are. I might get Neil to come and quickly whiz this around for us. Here we are, ready to represent ourselves as Aliva. Drum roll. Ta-da! Thank you, Neil. We chose this name and these wonderful, vibrant colours to reflect the vibrancy of the technology industry, but also of our own people and their passion and enthusiasm, and the positive impact that technology is able to have on the lives and businesses of our customers. So as I say, it was a 6-month journey. We had some highs and we had some laughs and we had some lows. And the whole business, the people within our business were engaged right from the very, very start. And I think that's been important in helping them embrace this so wholeheartedly. Their commitment to our vision has really made it a lot easier than certainly I thought it was going to be. So now we embark on probably what's going to be the biggest part of the challenge, and that's communicating the messaging and getting that messaging right out to the market. That no, we haven't been bought out. No, we haven't haven't merged with anybody. To get that message out there portrayed accurately is something that's going to be really, really important to us. So we'll be embarking upon that this afternoon and getting the news out to all of you, or all the rest of the market, on why we did the change and what it's meant to us. So in the last 6 months at Aliva, I can start using that name now, we've been fortunate enough to have been appointed to the panel to supply the whole of government, for Queensland Government, for hardware and associated services with that. We got the news the day before Anzac Day, and I can remember seeing our name on this panel, brand new panel, amongst 6 other businesses, and thinking to myself, how on earth did a small business get on that list? I'm talking about us standing shoulder to shoulder with Dell, Acer, Fujitsu, and a couple of other multinational businesses. And when we announced the news to the team, I can remember standing there and saying to them, well, we have London, Tokyo, Madrid, and Milton. And it was just extraordinary. And but as you know, I think one of the most important things for us to remember to keep in mind is we absolutely earned our seat at that table. And I really do have to congratulate the Queensland Government for recognising the value in being able to offer diversity in choice to their customers, to its customers and the agencies. I think small business brings many valuable different perspectives to what their larger companies can bring. And we all have very different roles to fill, very valid roles to fill. But I do think it demonstrates very loud and clear that small business can play in the government space. So I've been very busy as well, working on this technology cluster, and I will hand over to Nathan shortly, this technology cluster within CCIQ since we last met. The Technology Council is now fully established. There's a couple of faces around here that I've seen at some of our member events, which is fantastic, and the membership within that cluster has grown very rapidly. We've had some fantastic success towards our goal. Our goal was guiding and educating the broader business community about how to make the best of technology and the opportunity it can bring. We've had some funny things like a speed dating event we did down at Nova Radio and co-hosted at Brisbane Marketing. It involved 50 small businesses in Brisbane and 50 technology suppliers. Speed dating like crazy, and it was quite a successful event. We're still working on those how-to guides that I talked about last time I was speaking to you about, how to, take a journey to the cloud, how to do some, mobility in your website and things like that. They're coming. It's a lot of work. So, and being a bunch of volunteers, we're getting there. One of the priorities I mentioned to you last time also was professionalising the technology industry. And confidentially, I know I'm amongst friends now, I'm a member here, I can share with you that there are moves afoot within CCIQ to help businesses gain a lot more transparency and be able to trust a lot more the advice that they're getting from their technology suppliers, and that's going to be through a best practice program. So don't go asking CCIQ anything about that yet. I wasn't actually supposed to say anything. So I'll tell you, I promise, once we're able to share a bit more about that. It's going to be very exciting for not only the business community, but also the technology providers, within this group as well. So, we're going off here. I'll share some of that as soon as I can. So coming, as you know, some of you know, from the legal profession, I'm very, very used to a high degree of regulation. And when you look at, if you draw some comparisons between the legal profession and what the technology industry is doing, we are giving advice, and we're in a position of trust. So I think it's important, and it's going to be very, very valuable for the business community to be able to access that sort of information. That's pretty much all I wanted to cover, and as I say, I'm just the support act today. Nathan Wood joined Lever, it's so weird saying that, almost a year ago, and his role was to help move forward massive transformation within our business. It's something that we needed to do, not only to maintain our relevance in the market, but actually for survival. Life couldn't be sweeter right now. It's been an absolute hard slog, and I'm absolutely so glad I've had Nathan down in the trenches with me over this last year. So I'll hand you over to our cloud whisperer, Nathan.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for your time this morning. Thanks for the great introduction, Marie. Cloud whisperer, I've never heard that before, but I think I might put that on my business cards. This morning I just want to give you a bit of an overview of the cloud and a bit of a customer reference case study of a customer taking on a journey to the cloud right now. A few things I just wanted to cover off is what is a cloud, because it's probably an overused term nowadays. So just out of curiosity in the room, is there many businesses who are actually looking to go to the cloud or actually in the cloud at the moment? Just raise your hands. Those already in the cloud? Great. Anyone who had their hands up now who are looking to, go grab their card. What I really want to focus today on, once I get this right, is the three types of cloud. So there's a private cloud, hybrid cloud, and a public cloud at the end of the day. And really what we'll focus on today is a public cloud. But if I just talk about what the cloud is, once I get my mouse right, it's essentially a combined set of resources and infrastructure that are accessible to your users via the network that houses an individual's or an organisation's IT assets. So that could be anything from your business right now, where you have servers and storage in a server room, or perhaps in a cupboard or set aside in a room somewhere in your business. Or for home users, it could be, iCloud from iTunes or Google Apps and that sort of stuff too. So if we focus on the three types of clouds, most people in this room will have a private cloud right now. You'll have a series of resources sitting in your business, some servers, might have a number of servers, might have some storage. You'll certainly have users connecting to that sort of stuff as well. and that will be considered a private cloud. We've had it for years, it's nothing new. We've just whacked the word cloud onto it and decided that that's now a private cloud. The other transformation in that sort of area is what we call a private cloud, where it's just off-site in somebody else's data centre. So it's still your infrastructure, you own the assets, you own the software, but it's whacked in somebody else's data centre and you still connect to it. Private cloud's been around for decades. It's only recently that we've added the word cloud to it, and now it's suddenly a whiz-bang new topic to talk about. I don't think there's anybody in the room that wouldn't have anything like that right now. Is that correct? Yeah. Then we talk about the hybrid cloud. Now this is where most businesses are starting to go today, and a hybrid cloud is stuff where people are just dipping their toes in the water to go to the cloud. They still have their normal inline business stuff, their servers and so forth inside their business themselves, but they're starting to outsource some stuff. They're deciding to put their email in the cloud, or they're putting their database services in the cloud, just small components, whether it's to the cloud provider or just off-site at a data centre. And you also, some people might use tools like Salesforce or Office 365, which are cloud-based applications that we use every day right now. Similar to internet banking, could be considered a cloud-based application. A hybrid cloud is probably the most common topic that we speak about to our customers today, where they're thinking about going to the cloud but only just moving some of their components across to it. But probably the most important one I really do want to touch on is the public cloud, and this is the big talking point of the industry and most companies nowadays, and I'll cover off in a bit more detail what a public cloud is. Again, it's just a series of IT resources that people access, but the key difference here is you don't own any of these assets. These assets are owned by a third party. You share the firewall, you share the storage, you share the compute, you can share the servers and the backup and the internet with multiple other organisations. The only difference is we hive off little pieces of that cloud for your business only, but it still shares the same platform. And you connect to it via an internet connection or a dedicated connection between your office and that network. It still can consist of third-party applications, so it's probably important to say that a cloud is not just one cloud provider. You could have a cloud that's providing all these resources that back, but then you could have 2 or 3 smaller cloud providers that your network connects to for applications like your CRM and your office applications and email and so forth as well. Does anybody have a cloud environment like that at the moment where they've got all their assets in the cloud? Anybody in this room? 100%? Okay, so there's a few of you. The terminology you may hear bandied around from a lot of IT providers, including ourselves, infrastructure as a service, that's essentially the public cloud where everybody has their software, their applications stored on shared storage, shared compute. DR as a service, disaster recovery as a service, so that's just where we take your environment and replicate it to a series of resources in the cloud. That's something that we do quite commonly for our customers right now. Software as a service, that's exactly what we referred to with Office 365, Salesforce in the cloud. Platform as a service, that can be things like Microsoft Exchange, or some people might use a database type application in the cloud to run their business on. Backup as a service, where we'll just back your key data up to the cloud rather than you backing it up or to a tape. And storage as a service, where you'll use some storage in the cloud just to put some of your archived data or less used data on a day-to-day basis. Why would you move to the cloud? Well, there are multiple reasons why we talk to customers about moving to the cloud, and I'll use a case that we're working with right now. As Marie mentioned, CCIQ are transforming their organisation, and we're taking them on a journey to the cloud right now. So CCIQ are an organisation that have around 35 staff based at Spring Hill. Their ageing infrastructure is coming up to 5 years of age. It's shared with the New South Wales Chamber of Commerce, so they wanted to break it apart and move their infrastructure to a separate location. So they approached us around about 4 or 5 months ago as to what their options were. Now, we could have gone down the conventional path and just bought them new servers, bought them new storage, just moved stuff across as we do normally, which would have been a capital expense for those guys, or we could have moved them to the cloud, and they've chosen to go to the cloud for a number of these following reasons. They wanted to reduce their cost and improve productivity without, spending lots of money. They wanted some scale, so they wanted to be able to scale up if their business grew, but they also wanted to scale down so they could quickly wind down their budget if they needed to as well. They wanted to have continual optimised performance, so one of their challenges was their ageing infrastructure was continually failing. It would work well for a couple of days, it would work poorly for a couple of weeks, it would spook back up for a day or so and then go back down again. They certainly wanted to have that enhanced stability and reliability, so they wanted their users to be able to go to work every single day, to be able to log on and do their job without complaining or having to worry about performance issues. Increased flexibility and agility. This was something that was important to them. As an organisation, like most people we deal with, they're growing, so they wanted to be able to, if they had a new service they wanted to offer to their members, they wanted to be able to quickly add it to their environment without having to spend a lot of money or start from scratch and rebuild their environment again. They wanted to go mobile, so they want to make sure their users can access, or their staff members can access all their applications and data out on the road without having to log into a VPN or a network that's difficult and cumbersome to use. Security was particularly key of mind to them because they house a lot of secure data. Member information, some people in this room like ourselves were members, their data's on there, and they wanted to make sure that was secure as well. They wanted to reduce their business risks, so their current environment didn't have any redundancy or no disaster recovery. And implementing a conventional type network where we could have just replaced their servers with likewise servers, etc., would not have given that mitigated risk. We could have built some redundancy in there for them, but there would have been no disaster recovery. It would have been additional cost for them on top of their infrastructure. They definitely wanted to turn CapEx to OpEx. Now, I know that's an overused term, but they wanted controlled, predictable monthly costs. And for the accountants in the room or the CFOs and so forth, you'll always turn CapEx into OpEx via leasing and so forth. But this is a true fixed cost that can scale. So they're basically with organisations, if they move to a cloud environment and they're going through peak busy times, they pay in small increments to grow. But at the same time, if there's a downturn like a GFC, etc., they can also drop certain assets off their cloud environment and reduce their costs. Whereas with a lease, you're stuck with that equipment from day dot. And they wanted to focus on their business. They don't have any IT staff. They were using the New South Wales Chamber of Commerce to provide IT support. They were paying in excess of $2,500 a user per year for that support, and they weren't really getting their value for money, and they want to reduce some of that and just focus on that business which is serving their members. How to move to the cloud? Well, exactly what we did with these guys and with other customers. You need to know your business. We can't help people move to the cloud. Cloud providers can't help you move to the cloud unless you know what your business needs from IT. I know a lot of smaller businesses in this room and that we deal with have grown very quickly over time and start off with piecemeal networks. You know, one server, they whack a bit of extra storage on there, they go grab another server, and over time they outgrow that, but they never really understand what they need from IT. So we spend a bit of time going through with our customers, and I suggest you do this with your provider, understanding what your business needs from IT in terms of performance, reliability, access, scalability, all that sort of stuff. If you don't know that, you won't get a solution that fits and aligns to your business. Confirm that it's going to add some value to the business. There's no point in moving to the cloud just because all the cool kids do it and it's funky and it's groovy. If your current network's working well, if it's a controlled cost and it's not causing you any issues, you know, it's not something you need to do today. But I can guarantee you that when you do decide to move to the cloud, you will find lots of value in terms of that extra flexibility, those controlled costs, the pay-as-you-grow type approach as you add new users on or you take users off. But if you can't identify any value in that process of aligning your business to your IT requirements, then I suggest you don't go to the cloud until you can do that. Assess your current environment. What works, what doesn't work. If something's working now, we can take that and move it to the cloud. But if something doesn't work, like remote connectivity, working from home, working from remote offices, we can fix that at the same time, and that's a perfect time to do that and take that in consideration. We can also make things that work well now work even better if need be. Talk to your key stakeholders, and this is a good one. It's really a cultural change, typo there. It's something that we've struggled with, and businesses struggle with a little bit. You know, a lot of businesses, particularly the older generation, are used to having flashing lights and pieces of tin in a server room where they can touch it and feel it and see it all the time. And there's a fair bit of nervousness when you say to them you're going to take all their data, take their workspace and move it off site where they can't see it, they can't touch it, and they don't own it per se. They own the IP but not the physical equipment. So I urge you to check with all key stakeholders in the business that they're ready for that journey, because it only takes one or two people to debunk or have a negative view of the cloud to really make that journey a lot harder. So we normally speak to all the key stakeholders in the business, all the management, all the team leaders, etc., to make sure they're comfortable with the process we're going through and that they're buying that we're moving their data off-site. Accurately cost your cloud solution. You know, one of the conceptions or the misconceptions is it's going to be an easy migration. Well, it can be if you plan it well, but there's a cost associated with it. Whilst you can just pick it up and move it, there is going to be impact upon your business if it's not planned well. So I urge you to make sure you know exactly what it's going to cost to migrate, what it's going to cost you on a monthly basis, and that's again understanding your business and what you need from IT, and also understand the pay-as-you-grow approach. What additional costs am I up for as my business grows? You want to know straight away if I add one more user, if my business expands by 10 users, or I acquire another smaller organisation, how that's going to impact upon my monthly cost. And you can have that written to your contracts up front. Don't let there be any surprises. Don't think you've got a fixed cost and then at the end of the month go from $5,000 or $2,000 to have a $12,000 bill. Make sure you understand those costs. Engage a trusted organisation to design a cloud. So again, I go back to that understanding your business and aligning it to IT. When you engage an organisation, make sure they take you through that journey. Make sure they understand your business. Then they can design a cloud solution that fits your requirements. You've got one chance to get it right when you move to the cloud. You move it once and it doesn't work, you'll move back and it'll be years before you move it again because people will lose trust and confidence in it. Plan your move in detail. Plan, and plan some more. I can't stress that more. Again, a lot of businesses have tried to move to the cloud and move back for a number of reasons. One is don't cut corners. You know, the cloud or a data centre is a long way away from your business. So one of the key things is making sure the connection between your organisation and your cloud environment is going to support the number of users you have, the type of workload you do. That's probably one of the biggest costs involved with the cloud is that link out into the internet or the WAN link into the data centre. Plan that. Make sure you do some testing first and understand what that throughput is going to be. Make sure you know how much outage there's going to be in your business to move from an on-premise solution to a cloud, and plan that downtime as well, because it could be a day, it could be half a day, but you don't want it to impact upon your business. And moving significant volumes of data from your office to the cloud is not as easy as just clicking your fingers. There is a process that's involved with that as well, so you need to plan and understand that. And then test. When you have moved to a cloud environment, your provider, make sure you test it before you go live. Get your users involved in testing that access to it. Make sure it works exactly like it did in your office. A user should notice no difference between the cloud and when it was in your office, because at the end of the day, they're still accessing the same applications, the same data, the same environment. The only difference is it's not sitting in the cupboard, it's not sitting in a server room in the building. It could be now sitting in another state, it could be sitting in another suburb. It doesn't matter to them. They should still be able to log on and use it exactly the way it was the day that you moved to the cloud. So testing is important also. Understand the SLAs underpinning your agreement. Know how they're enforced, know your rights, protect your business. One of the biggest things people say to us and customers say to us is, what happens if you close your doors? What happens if the cloud provider goes bust? How are you going to protect yourself from that? How do you get access to that? There's no industry regulations or governance around cloud computing in Australia at the moment. The only thing I urge you to do is, if you've got an issue with data sovereignty, make sure you choose a cloud provider that has local storage in Australia. You know, Office 365, Salesforce, all their data is stored offshore. So if your business has got a risk with that, or there's some regulations around your industry that says you can't have it offshore or off country, make sure you talk to your cloud provider and find out where that data is stored. All the clouds that we work with are all Australian based, nothing is off-site or out of country. The SLAs underpinning your agreement are important too. It's no point in having an SLA that says we'll have your business back up running in 4 hours. Remember, when you move to the cloud, and if you move your entire business to the cloud, that's it. If that link breaks, your business is offline for a period of time. Now, it's a risk, but it's not a high risk. If you do it properly and plan and have the right links in place with the right providers, it's a very small risk. But you need to understand what your rights are there too, because your business could be offline for a couple of hours, which in some industries, legal industries, where they bill in 6-minute increments, it could be in the tens of thousands of dollars for half an hour or an hour outage. So you need to understand those SLAs and how it's enforced and what penalties you might be able to apply. And ensure you ask questions. It's your right to know where your data's housed. It's your right to know what the cloud looks like. It's your right to know what type of infrastructure it sits on, where the data centre is, what physical security is around with that data centre as well. So if I move back to the CCIQ example, We actually did we go through a process, and I urge you to do this with your provider if you have one, is a due diligence process where the organisation comes in, reviews your environment, finds out what's good, what's not good, understands your business and how it uses your IT environment, and makes some recommendations to tune it in line with what you're trying to do. Really understand that. Then design a cloud solution that fits that business, and we did that with CCIQ, and we probably spent 2 months going through this process within the review process and to and fro, and truly understanding how their users access that. They've got 25 users based at Spring Hill, they've got a couple of users based up north, a couple down the coast, a couple up the Sunshine Coast as well. We needed to understand how those users access the network and how often they access it as well. And only once we understood that could we design a solution for them, which we did. We then planned a migration for them. We involved their users in what that might look like. We designed a cloud environment that had their input into it, the types of storage they'd like, the type of access they'd like to have from home. And once you've done that, it's a fairly straightforward process. Planning and testing it comes back to. And I guess I didn't want to take up too much time, but if I could just touch on it, the cloud is real. It's here today. It's proven. It's a mainstream alternative to small mainstream businesses. Moving to the cloud will absolutely save you money. I can assure you of that. And I'll throw some stats to you right now. We ran some tours on CCIQ's environment and calculated that they would spend $8,500 per year on electricity costs just to power and cool their server environment. And that cost goes up an average of 21% per annum. And we're talking about an organisation that only has 25 users and a very small amount of infrastructure. So imagine what that might be for you. Floor space at CCIQ, it's only A-grade floor space, it's not premium, $650 per square metre per month. So they've got a server room that's approximately 5 by 5, 15 square metres of room that they can reclaim and use for office space or meeting space and so forth. So that's more money that they can save. Take those costs and offset it against what you might pay for the cloud, and you'll find out that your return on investment is not as hard as you might think it is. The other benefits you'll get too is flexibility of the cloud. You know, when we talk about shared resources in the cloud, when your business puts in infrastructure, you might buy 2 servers and some storage, and you might buy some extra capacity to support your environment, which is cost that you could save, but you have to spend because you want something for a rainy day when your business needs it. The cloud providers have hundreds of servers and petabytes of storage there, shared and ready to use at a drop of a hat, and you only pay for what you need at that point in time. And as you need a little bit more, you can grab that little bit more and pay for it at that point in time. So I say don't pay for something today that you can pay and hold off till tomorrow when you actually need it. The other flexibility is redundancy and disaster recovery. All cloud providers have, as I said, hundreds of servers, lots of storage. So when you're in your environment with a couple of servers and you have a hardware failure, it's fairly hard to cover that hardware failure because it's only a single server, a couple of servers, you could lose some downtime and data, etc. Cloud providers have a fairly high uptime of like 99.99%, although I'll tell you 5 nines. The only downtime that our cloud has is scheduled downtime where we want to do some maintenance work, where we would advise that in writing in plenty of notice for customers. But even then we can avoid that by having multiple servers that we can move your workloads across to. So in terms of redundancy and risk mitigation, cloud is a good solution. The fact that cloud providers replicate their clouds to other environments as well gives you a disaster recovery. So if we go back to the floods that we had in January 2011, no one was ready for such a geographical disaster locally in the CBD and so forth. So we had businesses running around at the place I was at the time asking us to restore data to tapes and so forth for them, and suddenly disaster recovery became a big thing. Now for you to replicate your environment today, it's achievable to the cloud. You can have a DR as a service solution. But if you move your entire business to the cloud, by default you get a DR strategy straight away where your environment is replicated to another data centre miles away from your primary data centre. It could be replicated to another state. Ours, for example, we replicate between Queensland or Brisbane, New South Wales, and we can also replicate to Melbourne as well. So we have a 3-fold strategy for that as well. Functionality that you never had before. You know, remote connectivity, remote access might have been a challenge for small business previously. When you have a cloud provider, those sorts of things are most definitely within your reach from a financial perspective. What used to cost you $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to try and set up might only cost you a couple of dollars per user per month. Power and cooling costs disappear from your business, as I said. So there's a lot of advantages from that point of view, from both the risk point of view and a functionality.